in the veteran studies that got published, we showed statistically that there was a decrease in anxiety, a decrease in PTSD, and an increase in quality of life. And so I always say, for any of us, if we can decrease anxiety, we can live another day. We can continue.
There are healers on this planet with the power to soften the suffering of mankind, yet they have remained in the recesses of the world, abused, discarded, and labeled as trash. This is The Touch of a Mustang. I am your host, Shalise Clough, and I'm here to tell the story of wild horses, Mustangs, and the humans who are discovering and sharing their gifts while working to protect their well-being and preserve their spirit, so this divine power won't be lost. Join us on this quest with the Wild Mustang. Nancy and Twila, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited about this conversation today. We are going to talk about the film that you guys created and the work that you do with horses. And the film is called Where the Horses Heal the Soul. To start with, could you both just introduce yourselves and the work that you do and how you kind of came to be a part of this filming? And why don't we start with Nancy?
Okay. Well, my name is Nancy Krenek, and I'm a physical therapist, and I've been working in this equine-assisted services industry since 1998. I always wanted to work in this industry. And so I've been doing that for a while. And George and Barbara Brightwell were some of the original donors and leaders, board members of our organization. They donated the original 20 acres that we operate on. Now we operate on 60 acres. And they came to me maybe, 5 or 6 years ago. Twila may need to correct me. But they said, we want to do a documentary about rock and about the work that's gone on here and the people and the stories that we see. And I said, well, that's great. You're welcome to do that, but that's not what we do, and that's not what I do, and that's not what I'm good at. So if you want to do that, that's great, but I'm really going to keep doing my job and stay out of it. And they fell in love with Twila, her talent and her gifts and her personality, and hired her to start creating it. And because I sort of removed myself from the situation for the most part, this has really been Twila's creation. She and one of my staff members helped determine the 4 main characters. And as far as the theme and the storyline, that's all been Twila. So Twila created this hand in hand with George and Barbara Brightwell. And they both died last year, and they were in their late 80s, and they were still just the most remarkable people. They've helped start numerous nonprofits, and they really, really believed in what they saw with the horse. So when they gave us the land, they never disappeared. They were in our lives weekly for, the last, just beautiful, remarkable people. And you saw that in the film, when they prayed about how the horse was holy. So my part of the film was just showing up whenever Twila told me to. And listening to the questions they would ask me, but just being available. However, I didn't realize the whole gravity of the film or the storyline of the film until I actually saw it as well. It was Twila. So I'm here because George and Barbara and Twila told me to be.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And Twila, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the film.
I call myself an accidental filmmaker. I'm a musician and a songwriter and did that for many years in Nashville. And when I moved to Texas, I kind of started getting into video editing and doing some of that. I thought that's kind of like music editing. I used to do lots of editing, lots of programming tracks and all that. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. It's kind of like writing a song, telling a story. So I started delving more into editing, and I started working for a client in Georgetown, Dale Illig, editing and working with some of his older projects. And one day, Dale said, I want you to meet George and Barbara Brightwell. So he introduced me to Barbara Brightwell, and then he recommended that I make a film about the hospital in Georgetown, St. David's, Georgetown. And I thought, I've never made a documentary film before. I've done short videos, and they believed in me, and they hired me to create that documentary film. It's a historical documentary about the Georgetown Hospital. Just like with Nancy, they believed in what Nancy was doing, and they believed in me, although I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning and very green and learning to edit and learning to make little films. And then they kept talking about Rock, Ride on Center for Kids. They kept talking about Nancy Krenek, and so much, so often. So one day they took me to Rock to take a tour and introduce me to Nancy. And they started throwing around the idea, talking about, we need to make a film about Rock. And I think I was still in the process of working on the documentary about the hospital. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about Rock. And then couple years passed by, and then they approached me again. And they said, we really want to make a film about Rock. And I said, I would love to do that. And I'd seen what was happening at Rock and had been there a few times and met Nancy and thought, wow, they're doing amazing work here. Yeah. I said, we have a couple of options. We can make a great YouTube video, like other equine-assisted therapy centers. I've seen their tremendous YouTube videos, reaching a lot of folks. I said, well, we can make a cinematic movie. It's going to cost quite a bit more money, but let's do, if you were interested in that, it would probably have a broader appeal to people maybe than even a YouTube video. And George was a very creative person, and Nancy knew them much better than even I knew them, much longer than I knew them, but they were just the most beautiful people, and I love them so much. We miss them so much. But George said, let's make a creative documentary film, like a cinematic film. So George, his creativity was behind this so much, and Barbara as well, but George really was the driving force of making this film. And it was his vision. He kept talking about, we want to share the ripple effect of Rock. We want this film to share how Rock is reaching out to help not only just the participants at Rock and everyone who's involved at Rock, but beyond Rock, how they're helping other equine-assisted therapy centers, other people in the industry, and how it just keeps rippling on and on and on. Yeah. So that was kind of a goal of ours in the film, to show that, as well as showcase for participants. I wish we could have told more stories. We filmed more stories, but we had to cut some in the edit. We can't show everybody's story. Right. But they're so powerful. The four folks that we kind of narrowed it down to, Todd, Hunter, Faith, and Will. Yeah. And they're all different stories, but very similar as well, because they all are sharing how the horses and the staff at Rock, the volunteers, Nancy, everyone involved at Rock, it's not just about the horses, although that's the primary reason they're all coming together. They're the horses, but the people there. That's why we wanted to share that as well, that the people at Rock, they're amazing, amazing people that are just, they have such a heart. As Dana says, Faith's mother says in the film, they're all hearts in, like they're pouring all of themselves into this ministry, is what George
really believe in it. Ministry. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I was very honored when they asked me to be part of it. It's not been an easy film to make. It's, the pandemic kind of shut everything down during the process of working on the film. We were fundraising, and so some of that kind of got put on hold. Other things happened, kind of hit some roadblocks along the way, but I believe God's timing is perfect. And sometimes we think, well, why is this taking so long? But God's never early. Usually he's right on time, is what I've kind of figured out as I'm getting older. So we're just thrilled to be able to share these stories and to continue with that ripple effect, as George was talking about, to connect with other people who may need this type of therapy, maybe not in Georgetown, Texas, but maybe in California or in Arizona or in Colorado. Right. And so they can connect. And we've had lots of comments on our social media, people saying things like, where can I find this type of therapy? Or I need this therapy, or my daughter desperately needs this therapy, or I want to start an equine-assisted therapy, or I used to do this, I want to get back into doing this. So we've had great comments and great interactions with people through social media, just with the clips that we're showing.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think is so incredible, because it is such a powerful resource that we have, and I think a lot of people really don't know that might be an option in addition to, or even sometimes in place of, some of the more traditional types of medicine or healing that we use in our society today. One thing I loved about the film is it focused on just with the four people you showed, it was a pretty wide demographic of the different types of people and situations that horses can really help with. And one thing that came to me as I was watching it is that, some of them were more like mental health, mental wellness type issues. Others were more physical, but it seemed like all of them really, it was a combination that the horses were helping them, physically, mentally, emotionally. Did you guys see that as well?
Absolutely. That's kind of what I see every day here,
Yeah.
and you might start on a relationship with the horse from one angle. You want to learn to walk better, or talk better, or whatever, but ultimately, or have less anxiety, but ultimately it helps all those things because we're all connected. We're so, we're just complex, and the horse can really address nearly all those issues. Personal relationships, you learn how to work well with a horse and you learn how to work better with people. It's pretty incredible to see how
Yeah.
helpful it is to work with a horse.
Yeah, I bet just the 4 instances you showed, the transformation was really neat to see. One you followed was Will, who was new to the program and just very new to horses. And it was really interesting to see him, how the first time he was by the horse, he was very unsure and very apprehensive about it all.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
as you hear him talk about the horse, you can just tell about the horse he worked with in particular. You could just tell the way that it touched him really, and really,
Mm-hmm.
you guys say how it heals the soul. And I really do think there's an aspect with horses that really do touch our soul, something deeper than, a lot of the material and shallow, more tangible aspects of our life. What are some ways that you guys have seen that?
Well, I know Twila saw this as she was making the film as well, but part of the story we were trying to share was that the horse helps improve independence and life skills. And you kind of see that with those characters. They were all kind of stuck, and it's not that the horse was the whole point about the film. It was about it gave them hope and courage, or better self-esteem, or better physical movement, or less anxiety to be able to go to the next step.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really matters for all of us, that we can live more abundant lives. And whether you have a diagnosis or some sort of label, or whether it's just like, I feed horses every Tuesday morning, and I always tell people I do that for me because I struggle as well with things. And so just to get that, you can't be around a horse very easily and not be focused on the horse, and that being really present. And then, there's so many aspects of the horse's movement that's so therapeutic for any kind of therapeutic activity. But it also, even if you're working with a horse from the ground, you have to be aware of where you are in space, and you have to be aware of your what your body is communicating to the horse, and you have to know where your feet are. I think all of us move so fast in this world, sometimes we have no idea where our feet are.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful for centering people, and maybe making the next step that they need to in their lives. We've seen incredible, and we used to think it was just the person that we were serving with the horse, but now there's lots of great research that shows that volunteers have a decrease in anxiety.
Oh, wow.
And from coming out and volunteering. So it's not necessarily just someone who you say is maybe receiving a treatment. It's that agriculture is good for all of us. And we learned with COVID how deregulated we all can get, and how we all need certain things. We need community, and we need connection, and we need, someone who accepts us as we are. Well, the horse does all that.
I love what you said about how, we get with the horse and we really have to be present. And I think a lot of things in our regular everyday life are kind of done on autopilot, where we're just going and not even necessarily thinking much about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really love that aspect of horses, that they take us out of our mind a little bit, and we have to kind of come back to earth and come back to reality, because there's a lot of stuff to take us away from that in the world today. And even just, being a human and the things that happen in our mind.
Absolutely.
One thing that Nancy says in the film, you probably caught it, I don't know if you would remember it, but Nancy says, especially talking about veterans, if they learn to lead a horse, they learn to lead their lives.
Yeah.
I think that's very powerful. And Nancy kind of talks in these great sound bites that I love. As a filmmaker, I love how, sharing those types of sound bites, because it's just a short phrase, but it's so powerful. And that's kind of what we were sort of witnessing with Will's story. Will actually lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Will's given me permission to talk about this. And his story, he has a hard story. Will was in Afghanistan. He was a career military person. He was in the Army, U.S. Army, also in the Marine Corps. 18 years old, he joined the Marines, and he was in the Army. He was in Afghanistan, 2 Gulf Wars. So he's had lots of trauma, lots of PTSD, injured by an ID explosion. His arm was injured. He was literally suicidal 2 weeks before he came to Rock the first time. And he's given me permission to talk about this. He had lost all hope. And his wife, they lived across the street in a subdivision across the street from Rock. And his wife, they'd driven by, they heard about Rock. And his therapist was kind of encouraging him, and he was afraid to go. And his wife talked him into coming. So that what you saw in the film was his very first time coming to Rock, first time and seeing the Playboy, the alpha male horse in the herd. And he was terrified. He was very terrified. He was afraid the horse would attack him because he's been through so much trauma. He still struggles. I talked to him on the phone just the other day. He still struggles with some of that anxiety, PTSD. But he's thrilled about the film. He wants his story to help other veterans. And Kevin, who works with the veterans a lot, who's in the film, talking to Will and working with Will, we filmed parts of the story that we didn't add to the edit. But Kevin expressed to Will that your story will help save a life someday. This film, hopefully some veteran who was be on the verge of suicide will see your story and realize there is hope, and maybe can find a way to find that hope, maybe at Equine-Assisted Therapy Center, and connect with the horse. So that's the purpose for this film, is to help people. I know George and Barbara were very much wanting the film to reach veterans worldwide. We hope this film goes worldwide. We don't anticipate winning any huge awards or anything like that. That's not our goal. That's not our mission. George and Barbara kind of laid that down in the very beginning. It's not about making money. It's not about big awards. It's to help people and to spread the word about how horses really can help people. Nancy's the one where I got the title of the film. Someone asked me, how did we come up with the title, Where the Horses Heal the Soul? Nancy actually said something, and I thought about this the other day. I thought, well, Nancy's the one who really triggered my thoughts about that, because she said in the film, we're spirit and we're soul. That diagnosis or label that people have on them really has nothing to do with who they really are, because we're spirit and our soul. Whatever's happened to them, to their body, that's not who they are. So another thing I think is so powerful about what they do at Rock is they just encourage people so much. And you see it with Hunter and her story. Like, she's a little powerhouse. She's a dynamo.
Oh, yeah. She seems like
Hunter
a lot of fun.
Yes, she is. And Nancy, she loves Nancy so much, as you can tell in the film. And she's just a great testament to the encouragement that she's received over the years at Rock.
And I think, like you guys said, that sense of community, to be around other people who are just supporting you and kind of cheering you and lifting you up. I think that's pretty incredible also. But sure. I love that part also, where you guys talk about veterans and a lot of what happens to them when they come back to the domestic world, so to speak, the world that we're all living in, where they were in positions of importance. They have these really tight-knit groups of people that they worked with. And then I've heard a lot of stories about they come back and they're almost discarded in a way. I think in the film it said something to the idea that they're kind of no use anymore. And so just thrown to the side. So I really love that idea that they were able to come back in and find a place again where they can serve and help other people, which I think is probably what is on a lot of their hearts, is probably why they joined the military to begin with.
Yeah. Absolutely. They come back, and the military actually really does have good programs. But I think what I'm learning about trauma is that if trauma happened to you physically, and it could have happened in community or not, but for them, it was a community where they received their trauma a lot of times. It happened to them physically and mentally and emotionally, like it's true for all of us. And so you heal in community. And you have to heal physically and mentally and emotionally. And And it's possible, I'm not a counselor, but it's possible that that's one reason this is so effective, is it's physical and it's emotional and it's mental. You know, you have to learn how to have a relationship with a horse, and you have to move your body, whether you ride or work from the ground. And we're a community. You have to work with other volunteers and instructors. And if you're a veteran, you're going to work with other veterans. And those veterans are subject matter experts, because I've not served in the military. And so my voice doesn't count, really. You know, I can teach you good horsemanship, but my voice doesn't matter when it comes to talking to you about what you've been through. But those other veterans, now that's healing, when they can share their stories. So part of why the whole veteran program works is hugely the horse. And then the second part is the community. And then we even serve meals. The community brings meals out. And so I think that whole camaraderie of having a fellowship meal together every week and working with horses. And if there's something you want to learn about a horse, you could come ask someone like myself, but probably you're going to go ask another veteran, and then somebody that's ahead of you will teach you. And that's the whole military motto of not leaving a fallen comrade behind. It really does do this community of healing. And then they're expected to come back the next week and eat a fellowship meal again. And that even helps, you know, that accountability that somebody wants to see you again and your horse wants to see you. So it's very effective. Next year will be the 20th year we've been working with veterans. I've been learning more and more about a term called trauma-informed care. Mm-hmm. And we don't really use that term. We don't really even talk about trauma a lot. We just talk about, you know, what's your story and do you want to work with horses? But the more I've studied trauma-informed care, ROC really is doing it. You know, they provide a safe place, and there's transparency, and there's community and connection, and people get to realize that they have something going on, and then they get to address it, and then they get to work on it. And it's set in a way where they, like I said, can build that community with the horse and with other veterans. Or in the other situations, you know, like when Hunter's here, she's with all of her people. Her people are us and the volunteers. Anybody that loves a horse is Hunter's people. Yeah. And probably the same for Faith now as well. You know, she's just grown up and connected with this horse world completely.
I think one thing that's really amazing is that when a program like yours is built on a really good foundation where you do have that support and stuff, it seems like a lot of it then follows very naturally. Like you kind of said, you're learning about this and you guys are already doing all these things because sounds like you built a really good foundation, and the horses kind of are just natural teachers to a lot of the things that we need or we're struggling with in our human world.
Absolutely. Probably the biggest challenge in the horse world and in the nonprofit world is that both of those are very passionate worlds. Yeah. And so it brings a lot of real passionate people. And so part of the challenge in running these programs is dealing with the people more than the horses. The horses are not the issue.
Yeah.
But they always say the one thing that two horse people can agree on is that the third horse person is incorrect.
Yeah.
And
there is some conflict out there about the right way to do things for sure.
Yeah. And so anyway, if you continue to come back to the horse and you can build environments that just can be safe. And, you know, that's the key. And for the veterans as well, you know, they just need steadiness. They just need warm food and good horses and good fellowship and good horsemanship.
Yeah.
And good things happen.
And it sounds so simple when you put it that way. And then when you look into it, it's just incredible, the things that come out of it, you know?
Yeah, it's really true. It's really true. And, you know, we talk about it in the movie that it's the family as well that benefits. And, you know, again, when we started doing this, we just thought we were helping that one person. Yeah. And now we know from research that we're helping the family and that we're helping the volunteers, you know, so the circle's bigger than we think, the influence of the horse in equine-assisted services.
Yeah, and that seems something pretty unique to equine therapy, because in a lot of other modalities of healing, and mental health areas, it's not usually something that is also enriching the people that are doing it. It's often very draining to work in those environments. That's something I did, right out of college, worked in one, and it's pretty intense arena of life to work in the mental health field. So it seems pretty unique to me that, like you said, you're running all this, and I'm sure taking on a lot of stress and even benefiting from your time doing it and spending with the horses.
One thing I'd be kind of remiss if I didn't talk about it a tiny bit, is that there was a research paper recently where in the last 4 or 5 years, where they looked at all the terms of working with horses in the world. And he brought in all these different people to talk about it. And because there's all different branches that help monitor this work and different philosophies. And they brought all those people in. And the umbrella term now is equine-assisted services. That's the umbrella term for this work. And then underneath it, you have equine-assisted therapy when it's PT, OT, speech, or psychotherapy with the horse. And then equine-assisted activities is when you have, which is the majority of it, when you have certified therapeutic riding instructors. And then the next piece is equine-assisted education, which might be some of those things that we do that's a horse encounter to educate someone about something. And so even that's been interesting, because when I started a long time ago, there were about, 20 different names for what we did. So the industry's come a long way with the research, and then even the defining of terminology and for you personally, it might be therapy when you work with your horse, but when the world talks about it, they are only calling it therapy when it's with a PT, OT, speech, or mental health person. So even that's been interesting to go through that journey of how, as it becomes more professional, even the language has had more definitions. Of course, the horses don't care.
Right, yeah.
It's just a man-made thing. But it's helped. It's really helped to make the industry a little bit more respected. But the key thing has been all the research. That's what I love, and that's what really makes a difference.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that some, because I agree it's such a key piece to help, especially professionals, to kind of see that this is a valid approach, a valid method to be using. So what is some of the research you've done, and what have your findings been in that research?
So we've done studies on veterans, and we've done studies on autism that have been published in peer-reviewed journals. We just recently did another one with 4 children that had cerebral palsy, and we compared the movement of the horse to, the theory was that when the riders synchronized with the horse, their function would change. And so because we monitored the horse's movement and the rider's movement, you could see when it finally synchronized, and that is when the function changed.
Wow.
So that was pretty impactful, because that's what we've always thought. But then we actually got to see it and experience it. And in the veteran studies that got published, we showed statistically that there was a decrease in anxiety, a decrease in PTSD, and an increase in quality of life. And so I always say, for any of us, if we can decrease anxiety, we can live another day. We can continue. And I don't know this 100%, but I think all suicidal ideation is probably founded in anxiety. So anything that we can do to lower our anxiety, all of us, to help regulate ourselves, is a good thing. And we do it every day. Some of us do it better than others. And so the horse is really a key in helping that. But to increase quality of life, that's pretty huge. We all want increased quality of life, and working with the horse did that. And then the same for children with autism. We've seen some really amazing results. We've also studied respiratory capacity, and we studied gait and balance and coordination and functional skills. We had a gentleman with MS, and we did a study on him, and he rode 12 times and improved in all of these areas really to a great degree. But the takeaway was, when he first came, a neighbor had to help get him in and out of bed because his wife was just too little. And by the end of riding 12 weeks, he could get in and out of bed by himself.
Wow,
so
that's incredible.
So the takeaways are not always necessarily what you think they're going to be.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. That's why research is fun, because what you think and then what you discover is sometimes different.
Yeah.
And I always say we can tell stories that will make people cry and pull at the heart and the emotion, but you also need the research. You need the facts of why this works. And I read a research article every week. And last week, because I get them by email, the latest that have come out. But our students at Texas A&M, the last 2 weeks have been reporting on equine-assisted services, research articles from all over the world. And it's been amazing what I've learned, stuff that I'd never heard of. And it's exciting that there's research being done in Israel and Spain and all these other countries, India and Korea. They're doing research projects on some type of equine-assisted services that's making a huge difference.
And in your findings, it seems like from the veteran study, we can see that horses likely decrease anxiety, all those good things they said, improve quality of life. Do you think that also played a role in the physical healing, that those who came primarily for physical issues to you guys, was that part of what helped them heal as well?
Well, I say it in the film, and this is what I believe, but I didn't study their cortisol levels, to see what was actually going on when, like even at the folks in the movie. But generically, if you have higher anxiety, you have higher pain. So it's like, Twila and I were talking about our health earlier, and if we're anxious about it, it affects us stronger. I feel that with all my heart, that the anxiety increases your pain.
Yeah.
And so movement usually helps decrease your pain if it's just a straight movement disorder. And so I can see it in the film, whether anyone else can see, but Todd was just, I saw Todd the first day he walked in, and where he was physically and emotionally, and then how that changed over the time he got to know the horse, and his walking changed after he rode. Tara talks about the fact that he began to smile again, and he comes out here and helps teach and make things happen. He still struggles every day. This is not a cure. As we all know, we have things we go through that can't be changed. And so it's not a cure, but it is definitely a way to help people step up their game in order to improve their quality of life.
I think it's kind of a myth that there is a cure out there that's just going to make your life perfect and fix it,
Yeah.
And the closer reality is that, you can pick up tools and skills that will improve your quality of life, that will make it not perfect, because I don't think it will ever be, but make it better and easier and more enjoyable to live in. The other thing I think so interesting about what you were talking about is how encompassing working with horses is. It really is a holistic approach to where, in traditional medicine or therapy, it's very focused on just one element of you. You go to mental health services and that's kind of focused on the mind, or you go to the doctor and they're focused on the physical. But how neat it is that not only do horses work with it all, but you're kind of seeing how it is all intertwined and interconnected. And because they're almost able to address all those aspects, it really does make it a really powerful healing modality.
I really believe in agriculture, period. So I think we're better off if we have a garden, or if we have animals, or a dog or a cat or a horse. But there is something unique about the horse in that they're so vulnerable. So, a horse is prey, and when you have a diagnosis, sometimes you're a prey. You're vulnerable. You're very vulnerable at that point in your life. And if you've gone through a hard time, all of us have gone through hard times. During those hard times, you're prey. And so there's a connection between you and the horse, because you realize, could be a tiger around the next tree, and you have that uneasiness. Well, horses have that for sure.
Yeah.
And their number one goal in life is to find out who the leader is. And in the herd, you can tell they find the leader. But when they're working with a person, they want to know if you're a predator or you're a leader. And so that's what we teach. We teach people how to lead the horse, like Twila said, and then you learn to lead yourself. And I have a therapy dog, and I love that therapy dog. And dogs are predators, just like we are. So there is just something different about the horse, that they're large animals, and the radius of their heart energy is like 5 feet, and they're vulnerable. They're checking you out. They can kind of pick up on what's some things going on about your energy. And then if you show them you can be a leader, they want you to be a leader. And sometimes, we've worked with at-risk youth. We've worked with veterans who they don't see themselves as a leader anymore.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be the CEO of your own life if you can't move your feet.
I really love that perspective. One thing I've heard a lot is how horses can really help build confidence. And just with what you said there, I think that maybe they push us to, okay, I gotta be strong and lead for the horse when maybe I'm not ready to do that for myself, but they give us that motivation to kind of change that aspect of how we're thinking about ourselves and our capabilities.
Yeah. We just I was working with the veterans down at Texas A&M, and the new ones, they first learn how to groom, and they learn how to tie the horse up, and then they start to learn to pick their feet. And that's a pretty awkward thing to learn how to pick a horse's feet, and can be pretty scary. And just even those little aspects when they learn those skills and that confidence to be able to do those things, it builds things in you, to learn a task that's very awkward. And they're doing that in a spirit of community with other veterans. And so it's powerful to watch what they gain from that.
Yeah. So Twila, I know you were telling me that you've never really been around horses before, or you're not a horse person so to speak of. What has that experience been like for you to see all this and to kind of see the stories unfold that you share in the movie?
It's been amazing. I love animals. I'm an animal lover. I love wild animals. I love to do photography of wild animals. And I just have a dog, had another dog. I love animals, but I've never been around horses. I had a pony when I was a little child, about 8, and I fell off the pony, and I was afraid of horses. Yeah. My sister loved horses and used to ride horses, but I would never get on. I was afraid. But it's miraculous. It's kind of blown my mind, because I didn't really know what to expect when I first started talking to people, coming around rock. And George and Barbara would say, just come and sit in the rocking chairs. You'll even feel peace and a calm just coming to rock. Just sitting in the rocking chairs. I have a line of rocking chairs by the arena where the equine-assisted therapy classes are taking place. And I've just been overwhelmed, blown away. I don't know how else to describe it, with what I've observed and what I've learned. I still don't know very much about it. I'm still learning, but it's just blown my mind how, as Nancy said, thank God for the horse. God uses the horse to help people heal. And it may not be the right thing for everybody, but I believe it can help a lot of people. I'm a believer. I'm a sold out believer. Even before we finished the film, I was just blown away. Hunter, I just keep coming back to Hunter. Hunter, in that one scene, it's in the trailer as well. She says, when she's on a horse, she forgets that she's in a chair. She forgets that she's in a wheelchair. Yeah. She feels free. She feels empowered. She feels like she can do anything. And that's I think her personality was a little bit like that, even maybe before she started coming to rock. But if you saw her mom in the film, her mom's just a dynamic person as well. Oh yeah,
she sounded amazing. All the stuff that they did.
Person. Yeah, they're both amazing. But Hunter and Todd and even Will, and Faith, they've all just proven to me, and the other people that I've seen at rock, other stories that, like I said, couldn't be in the film. But it's just taught me that there really is something to this. There's science behind this that proves that this actually works. It works with the mental health, physical. I'm a believer in it. So that's another reason I want to get this film out there, because we want it to help as many people as possible. Backtracking just a little bit, when you were talking about the veterans, I remember something that Todd said, and I can't remember which part of the movie it's in, but Todd said it's like being with your unit, being with the horse. The horse is looking out for him. And Will also said, I don't want anybody behind my back. Like I have to feel like I have to watch behind me. They don't feel that way with the horse. They feel like they're part of the same team, the same unit. So to me, that's been amazing to learn how that works, because I never thought about horses that way before. I never really thought about any animal that way before. With a relationship with a dog, it's kind of different than that. I don't know if my dog is going to have my back, really. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's pretty selfish.
Depends on their personality.
Yeah. but that just is so amazing to me, that concept that the horse is looking out for them. I've heard Todd say that a couple of times. Like the horse understands. He can feel. He kind of knows what I need. So that was pretty amazing. So
yeah, and I really think that speaks to the way the relationships are being built there, because there can be very adversarial relationships between human and horse, but really incredible to see, like when you work together, when you're communicating, when the horses are aware of you, a lot of that's because you've been aware of them and they've been able to build that trust. So that's really neat to see that you're able to take these people in and have them build that kind of relationship with horses.
Yeah. Nancy also talks about you have to be present when you're working with a horse. See, that's all new terminology for me about horses. And I've witnessed that and I've observed that. And even editing the film, I've learned so much just editing the film, because like there's tons of footage, but just, going through these stories over and over for the last few years, I'm just overwhelmed. I really don't know how to describe it. I'm just a sold out believer, especially with the veterans. There's a little bit more about Todd's story just because we film more with Todd and Hunter's stories. But Todd's wife, Tara, expressed to me what it was like, when he came back from Afghanistan after he had a horrible injury and the Humvee blew up. He had a traumatic brain injury, physical injuries, horrible injuries. And he was angry. He wasn't adapting. He didn't know where he fit in, and just the whole piece that they encounter at Rock, even just coming in through the arena, not even on a horse, not even interacting with a horse. There's something about it. And George Brightwell talked to me about that on a regular basis. There's something about it, just being here. Everybody's anxiety level just comes down. There's peace. There's calm, because you have to be calm and present, like Nancy says, with the horse.
Yeah.
So
well, it's not always like that, but generically, I always say sometimes I'm like a duck with my, look calm on the outside and my feet are pedaling as fast as they can. Yeah. But generically, it's a good thing. It's really, really a good thing. And people they love volunteering here. I have staff that have been here, 25 and 26 years and 18 years and 19 years and 20 years. And they could make more money somewhere else, but they love it. They love the work. And that's a need for the industry, is that hopefully this film will bring more respect to the industry and the focus that we are doing on research, because if we could raise more funds to help run this, then I can keep these employees, I can give them the salaries that they deserve for the results that they're doing.
One thing that I was really amazed by in the very beginning was Nancy talked about, she noticed when she went to talk to her boss, where she worked for the independent school district in Georgetown, that she noticed the movement when young people would come in motorized wheelchairs. The nonverbal children would talk, start talking, and it would light up their brain. I think it's exactly how Nancy said that in the film. Concept of movement was important when George and Barbara and I were talking about making the film. We wanted that to be something that was, hopefully that comes across, that the movement makes a difference. And it's also just taking a step, even having the courage for veterans to take that step, move their feet, as Kevin says, take the step, movement, moving to the next step of deciding to come to Rock, or being encouraged to come to Rock.
Taking that action.
Yeah, the windmill, George was very, they love the windmill, and he talked about even the movement of the windmill. That was very important to George, that concept would be in the film, and that would be visually something that stands out in the film, that movement helps people make change. Will says in one part, when he's talking to Kevin, I think it's near the end of the movie, you don't have to move. I know I have to move. Like take a step. Yeah, and at Rock, that's what I've witnessed. The volunteers, the staff, Nancy, everyone there, they're so encouraging, and they empower people to take that step, whatever the next step is that they need to take, and that they find purpose. And that's kind of what we want to show in the film, that how is this affecting their lives outside of Rock? What's happening with what's happening to them at Rock? How's it affecting their lives outside of Rock, when they're not in the arena, not riding on the trails? And Hunter was showing her work for being an advocate for disability.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and Todd with photography. And so that's how it really affects people's lives, transforms lives. That was
Yeah.
the vision for the film, really, to show that as well. So
Yeah, and that idea of movement is almost in opposition to how a lot of our society runs today. You know, it's kind of kids go to school and they're like, sit still. And even, you know, for adults in our office jobs or whatever, I think we have lost a lot of that natural movement. And I know it's something I've seen in my life where it's like sometimes I just need to get outside and like be doing something, and it just expands your mind and helps you cope with things or ideas come or whatever. So I love that you focused on the idea of movement and how important that is to our lives and to you know, taking that action and making improvements.
One of the other aspects of that is, you know, the horse's movement when you sit on their back simulates normal walking, and it's rhythmical and bilateral, and it's a biofeedback. It's all those things. We had a counselor come speak to the Texas A&M class the other day, and she pointed out that it's the most like being rocked that you will ever get since you were a baby. And that rocking movement is very important for soothing the nervous system. And we all know that's true when a baby cries. And I think a lot of us, when we're going through something, we might be crying inside and we're not expressing it. I have a grandson that rides here, and he's done really well, and he's had some challenges. But, you know, he comes out and sits on that horse and gets his speech therapy, and that movement calms his little spirit, and he's able to be so much more effective and improve in the quality of his life. And I used to think that you couldn't receive the benefits unless you were sitting on the back of the horse. And now I see we do 8 weeks of programming without sitting on the back of the horse. We really learn and connect with the horse before we ever sit on their back. And sometimes people never sit on their back because of different medical reasons or whatever. But so it is about the connection with the horse. And then depending on the aspect of what you're connecting with makes the difference in how it can be. So I'm just pretty pro the horse in one way, shape, or form. A funny thing is I have a large family. I have we have a blended family of 7 kids and 10 grandkids. So you'd think that my screensaver would be my family. And I love my family. I love my family. They're all over my Facebook page and all that. Yeah. But on my phone, I have a sunset with one of our horses at Rock. And I found that I have that because it calms me down. Like I pick up my phone and there's this horse in the sunset, and I think, And so I know if it affects me, just that one little thing, as much as I love everything else, that's why I keep that, because the horse, it just calms me. So I think other people could probably relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we all need a little more of that in the world right now, don't we?
Yeah, it really is a different world. Just when you talked about how people just being there, and even the families you talked about, just kind of entering a world that's outside of the high stimulus, very fast paced world that most of us live in on a day-to-day basis.
We've done a little bit of it, but my dream is to do more for caregivers. So we've been doing some caregiver retreats for the spouses of veterans, but the caregivers that bring their family member here while they ride, sometimes they're just really hurting that hour that they have a break from their loved one. My dream is that we can have enough manpower to take them over and let them groom a horse while their loved one is connecting with the horse. Because if it's good for one, it's good for all.
That would be really incredible. And I think they're almost the forgotten piece of it all, where they just kind of get up and do what they have to do, and they don't necessarily have the physical struggles or even the same emotional struggles, but still are carrying very heavy burdens to have someone that they love who's dealing with these hard things, and that they're consistently there to support and encourage them.
Yeah. So I don't know, we're starting to be a little more fluid in the fact that even a one-time horse encounter can make a difference. It can help in some way. And we have a mental health person who comes out and does a support group with our veterans. He doesn't do equine psychotherapy, but our veterans, if they learn some things about themselves working with the horse and they want to explore that, then they can work with the mental health provider. And so, you just learn things about yourself. It's a great thing.
One other thing I wanted to talk about is What has it been like for you, Nancy, to have this vision in your head, which I think when you decided to do this, you didn't even have a horse,
No.
to kind of have this idea and then see it materialize into what it is now. And even like you said, like you're still thinking of ways to expand and grow and serve more people. What's that been like for you? And what has maybe helped make that happen in your life?
So, gosh, that's kind of a challenging question because I never dreamed of this. And I never dreamed it would grow like this. I never dreamed we'd have a movie. Never dreamed we'd do research or I'd teach it, so it's really had kind of a life of its own. But it's because it works. And it's not, one of the things George and Barbara wanted with this film was that it would help other centers. So I get phone calls from other centers that want to show it as a fundraiser. And we're working out the details to be able to do that because it's not what you've heard about Rock and about us. This is happening all over the country and all over the world. Good work by good people and programs that are just as passionate and kind and amazing, and they have amazing horses as well. So it's something that people can look into wherever they are all over the world. And I know there's places where there's not centers, but it's growing. It's really, really growing. And so it's been really fun for me. It's been really hard. There's been really, really hard times where I'd come out in the dark of night to feed the horses. We didn't have cell phones and volunteers and, there's hard times with all of that. But to see the benefits, and I think the movie showcases that, the benefits have been worth the work and the challenge. And now to see these young people, I have amazing young people that work at Rock that are so gifted and so smart and so talented and so passionate about the industry. And that's encouraging to me that now there's there's multiple levels of generations that want to continue this work. And that's an encouragement to me because as we talk about in the film, you can be thinking you're doing it for one reason. And I never knew I was, 26 years ago, I never dreamed I was going to have a grandchild that was going to need this, like really. And so you don't know the journey. And I do have faith in God, and I'm just grateful that He led me this direction and He gave me the horse. So it's a God thing in my mind, how this is all unfolding. For sure.
It's a really incredible story. Some really impactful moments about how it's helped on an individual level with the stories that you guys share. What advice, Nancy, would you have if there's someone who maybe wants to get involved in this work or wants to start a center of their own? What are some things that you might encourage them to do?
Well, I would, this is what I tell most people, join one of the organizations. Like we operate under PATH International, Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship. Join. It's not very expensive, and start getting the magazines and start reading the articles about what's going on in the industry. And then go visit some centers. You can learn so much about in a tour. And then if you find a place and you're committed and you think you want to get involved, volunteer, because you can think you want to do something.
Yeah.
But until you are really doing it, like I have a pottery kiln that's not getting much use, and romantically I want to be making pottery and I'm not making very much pottery. No. So you need to kind of do it and find out if it's your niche a little bit. And then there's great resources through PATH International. I know there's other branches of ways that you can work in this industry. You can work with natural lifemanship if you're doing the mental health aspect. And some people use Agala. The Certified Horsemanship Association has some great material. And then there's different organizations in Europe that you can belong to. But PATH International has got some really good basic information that people can join. And that's what I would do. And that's what I did do. I wanted to do this for years. And so I joined the organization and read the magazine articles. And then I volunteered at a center. And then I put that dream and tucked it away, and then eventually I was able to do it.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a good reminder. like everything that you have and we're seeing in the movie was built over a long period of time with lots of work and effort and commitment.
And people. I mean,
And
people come and say, I can't believe what you did. And I'm like, are you kidding? I didn't do one single thing by myself. There's always been somebody, a lady named Joy Alexander brought us the first horse. And the Brightwells gave us the land. And Merlin Hoppy, our arena's named after him. Merlin Hoppy built the first round pen. And, you know, you can't do things without community. Maybe you can. But I know there's a TV show about being alone, but it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Community is how things really happen. And yes, we want to be independent, but we want to be interdependent. Yeah. And that's how this is happening.
On that note, is there anything else you guys would want to share about the Brightwells and kind of the foundational backing influence to a lot of this? Is there anything else you guys want to share about them and the work that they've done, the things that they've given to make this happen?
Oh, that'd be a whole nother movie if we started in on
it sounds like it.
Yeah, they were amazing.
They were just terrific people, really loving to people, really inclusive, and very non-judgmental. You know, they always said all means all, and they really embraced all people, no matter where they were at what stage of their life. And that's kind of like the horse. You know, if the horse is not gonna, if you have the opportunity to work with a horse, the horse is not judging you. You know, they may be sizing you up to see if you're a predator or a leader, right. but they're not going to be putting those labels on you or whatever that the world puts on us. And George and Barbara were like that. They just believed, and they were so grounded in their faith, but their faith was in action, in how they loved people and how they served people. And so that's even a role model of, you know, they moved their feet. Yeah. They just moved their feet. So it's amazing.
And they believed in people. Like they were such encouragers. And they were visionaries, but they would, whatever someone else's vision was, they would be on board with it, you know. So they were just incredible encouragers. And they just loved people. They were amazing.
Yeah. And so they wrote a mission and a vision statement for this movie. And so even that's fun because we know exactly what we're supposed to be doing because they wrote the blueprint. Yeah, Twila and I know what we're supposed to be doing and we're doing it. So it's pretty great.
Before we start wrapping up, is there a moment in filming and doing this whole process that really stands out to the both of you? That was maybe one of the more impactful moments that you experienced through this process?
I don't know if there is. For Twila maybe sees it more that way. I just reactively showed up and did what I was told. You know, I don't know that I let it sink in as much until I started to see it on the screen. And I'm an optimist, but I'm also a little bit of a pessimist. And I thought, I don't know if this will ever really happen. You know, I don't hang.
It's a big project.
I don't hang my hat on a lot of things. I just wait until they come about. And that's why it's so good to be in community, because I've had people that believed we could buy 20 more acres and then we could buy another 20 more acres. And I didn't. That wasn't my dream. Yeah. So, you know, this was George and Barbara and Twila's dream and vision. But now that I can see the film and some of the footage, I see lots of profound moments. But Twila, how would you answer that?
I think probably for Will, of course, that first time that he came to Rock was pretty profound. I wasn't there because we did not want him to be any more traumatized than he was. So my sister was with me. So we were on the other side of the arena while our cameraman and our sound recordist, the cinematographers, they both do cinematography, but they were there with Will and Kevin, and Will's wife was kind of off camera a little bit. So we just kind of wanted to give him space and kind of get out of the way. But then when I watched the footage for the first time, I was blown away. I did not realize he was that afraid and had that much anxiety. Yeah. And with Hunter, seeing her at the Capitol talking so fearlessly to
that just lit her up.
And the senator, and you know, she's fearless. And with Faith, seeing her, you know, the Special Olympics, the footage of her, you know, just commanding the horse, you know, just like she knew exactly what she was doing, very well trained and just so confident. And also to, you know, see her, you know, with the gymnastics and all that. And with Todd, I think the at his photography exhibit, his speech was very
Yeah.
powerful. It's kind of long in the film. It's a little bit long, but his speech was so powerful. And that evening was filled with electricity in the air. People were so encouraging. We were all rooting for Todd and so proud of him. He worked very hard on that exhibit and getting all those photographs ready for that. And that was his first exhibition. So everyone was just so encouraging and rooting for him. And you could feel the electricity in the air. So and that his speech, when he talked about, he felt like he had just been kind of thrown away like trash, after he came home.
Yeah.
And then what he said, he's broken, he may be broken, but he's not. I can't remember exactly how I said it now, but his speech was so powerful.
Yeah.
And everyone's response to him was very overwhelming too. So I could not work on that part of the edit without tearing up, and just
I bet.
every time it was so powerful.
Yeah.
They're all amazing people. They're incredible people.
It was really neat to either see or hear about the way that their lives had transformed because of this aspect of being able to have horses in their life in one capacity or another. So that was really neat. To close, how can people see the film, support you guys, support the work you're doing, follow you, all of that stuff?
Well, where the Horses Heal the Soul.com is our website, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, I think Rock Doc Film is our Instagram handle. Facebook is Where the Horses Heal the Soul. They could follow us on YouTube as well. We're on YouTube, Where the Horses Heal the Soul. Or maybe it's Rock Doc Film, one or the other. Check
one of the two. Look at those two.
Where the Horses Heal the Soul, yes. Mm-hmm. And we are doing film festivals right now. We've been selected for several film festivals. We're very excited about that to get the word out. And we hope to be on streaming channels soon, maybe sometime. We're still kind of talking about that after the first of the year, trying to get all of our ducks in a row. So, we want to make it available to people as soon as possible. Like we're going to watch on Amazon, Apple TV, and other streaming services.
Yeah, awesome. And it's been great seeing each, new award or film festival or whatnot that kind of comes up for you guys. I love seeing that this word is spreading more and more.
Thank you for having us on the podcast, and thank you for your encouragement and your interest and support of what we're doing with the film.
Absolutely, yeah.
We really appreciate it so much.
Well, and I'm grateful for you guys taking the time for this. I know you're busy, you have a lot going on in life, but I'm really excited for the opportunity to just help keep promoting the idea that horses can really be so helpful and impactful in our lives. And I love the work that you guys are doing, and really just commend you for continuing on, taking those action steps and creating what you've created both in the center that you do, Nancy, and in the films that you're putting together, Twila. I think it's really incredible work that's going to benefit humanity.
Thank you for joining us and learning about horses that heal and the humans who help them. We hope you'll continue with us on this journey. We'd love for you to subscribe on your favorite platform and follow The Touch of a Mustang on any of the major social media outlets. Please share with your friends, anyone who loves horses, or anyone who might be struggling and could benefit from this message. If you have felt the healing power of horses or help them in their divinely appointed mission, please reach out. We want to hear your story. As we say goodbye, always remember that the horse is always there to help you heal.